That's great. As always, we like to begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on, as well as our ancestors and those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We'd like to acknowledge our elders and community stewards whose shoulders that we continue to stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation. So to start off, how about you just introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Jamila. I was born and raised in the Dominican Republic, so in the Caribbean. And I actually ended up moving to unceded territories of the Lekwungen speaking peoples about 10 years ago. So, in other words, I came to West Coast, actually British Columbia, more specifically in Victoria. Now, as I was going through university, going through my degree, I actually studied sciences, and that was one of my first loves was science. And I was an activist. I was very active in the community, in the work with the university, and actually identifying what are areas where we need more support, or where people in our Black, Indigenous communities of color needed more support. And eventually that transition towards business. And I know it's a big jump, but honestly, when I looked at the impact that I was having, even through my degree and the impact that we needed to have on the ground, I saw, hey, you know what? We really need to focus on creating different systems or building different systems that are moving away from our traditional mindset or our traditional ways of doing work, workplace culture, etc. Because if we're going to work, just like you mentioned, towards our collective liberation, towards economic empowerment, towards resilience, true activism for me actually started by empowering ourselves and the people around us. And so eventually that led me to start my first company in the area of clean technology. That's where science came in a little bit. And then focusing, in that case, we were working on the circular economy. So we started looking at how do we decolonize the ways in which we make products, in which we already are working with our teams and building our companies. And even from a financial perspective, how do we change the way we make money and that money impacts the environment around us? And so when it came to money, though, in that journey, I learned that I wasn't financially literate at all. And guess what? As an immigrant, as a newcomer, I didn't really had a cushion. I wasn't starting from wealth. I wasn't starting from connections or a strong network. So I really found myself in a position of having to build myself up all the way from zero. And using, a lot of the knowledge that I have brought from home, plus my friends from plus different communities and work, I came to realize that the same struggles I was having, as an activist, as a woman trying to be in business, as somebody trying to bring change, was also the struggles that other people were facing. Something as simple as how do I pay my bills at the end of the month? Or how do I make sure that I even sleep well? Because my mental health was being severely impacted. And eventually, I ended up receiving support from some really amazing community members, actually from an organization that I ended up joining and starting to build with them. And it was in the area of financial literacy for myself, for my company, but then it translated to me wanting to bring this to other people in the community as well, because I really saw financial literacy and empowerment as a tool for more people to say build up their own businesses, to change their own communities, their own families. And eventually, when you think about the generational impact of, say, shifting from poverty, from debt towards a legacy of financial well-being, financial health, wealth, generational wealth, then all of those things tied together, that became my new form of activism and the impact I really wanted to see in myself and the people around me.
I love that. And like you said, it was a lived experience, but now you're all about sharing it with the community. So I really appreciate that. How important is entrepreneurship and innovation to the work that you do?
So I love that question, partly because when I look at, I wanted to be in a place where I felt comfortable. I understand entrepreneurship is not a comfortable journey, but I wanted to be in a place where being successful wasn't just the exception, or being joyful or enjoying or living a full life wasn't the exception. And when I looked at a lot of the people around me, the workplaces, the opportunities, they were, it didn't feel like success was part of that journey of what was already being catered to me or being shown to me with the pathway that I chose. And so that's where entrepreneurship really came in place, because not only for me, but for everyone who decides that they want to create something new, that want to try something new, you know, not even from a business perspective, but I'm going to say compensation, right? Even from implementing new compensation models, profit sharing, commissions, yes, pay by the hour, etc. All of everything that moved away from the norm, I'm going to call it entrepreneurship at this point. That is something that to me could lead to, like I said, generational impact, but systemic change as well. And so, how important is it? Well, when we're looking at the problems that we're facing today, the challenges that people are facing, just look at this on the financial side. You know, 1 in 4 people are unable to or have to borrow money because they're unable to pay all their bills at the end of the month. So we're talking about 25% of Canadians having to get into more and more debt every month. And that's not even looking at communities that are more impacted by, say, poverty, or immigrants or newcomers or people that have been displaced, etc. And so again, entrepreneurship and innovation gave an avenue for me, and I find for other people as well, to bring their own perspectives and to not be limited by maybe what other ideas are of how things should operate. And the reality is that the most popular idea doesn't necessarily have to be the best one. And I think that's where innovation has to come in place, because if we're looking at solving problems like the climate crisis, or making education equally accessible for everyone, solving the water crisis, I find that we do have to solve these problems with a different mindset than how they were created. And again, that goes into entrepreneurship. It opens doors for people to use their lived experience, not just, a degree or a title, but their ideas, their thoughts, their work as a team to solve problems.
It's so very true. I'm a big advocate of entrepreneurship, and I love the push, or the pull of more people into it for sure. And expanding on that, what inspires you most about your current work?
Well, in terms of my current work, because I know if you think about my story, it's going in circles, and that is entrepreneurship as well. It's not a straight line. It's not just a straight career pathway. The biggest things that has driven my work to this day is social impact. That's one. Honestly, I became an entrepreneur out of necessity in the first place, and then I started to understand that it could be more than something to just pay my bills. So I know a lot of people, some people choose to go into entrepreneurship because they have opportunities, and because maybe they get funding, they get the money, or like I said, they have the network. So people are just ready to buy their products. But for me, it was out of necessity, because I wasn't getting a job, for example, or I felt that I wasn't being valued, and it was very frustrating. My mental health was on the ground. And so what I love the most, apart from the fact that anybody can do it, even though it is hard, it's not an easy journey, anybody can do it. It's that it really creates at least a level playing field, where if we can really crack the code of entrepreneurship or having a business, anybody could be successful. And in my field, so I'm in the financial education, financial services. My organization is called World System Builder. I am a financial literacy advocate. I'm an educator. Our goal is to educate 30 million families by the year 2030. It's not a small goal. It's not a small mission either. And the reality, when I see it, I can't do this on my own. And so already, by focusing so much on such a big impact, I know that I'll need to give so many more opportunities to people around me to join on my mission, to join on my goal, and to, if they choose to, pursue this as their own entrepreneurial pathway as well, or as a partnership, or as another way of them making money. So entrepreneurship, the reason it's so important is because, I could, it's so hard to help people around me. It's so hard when you see people struggling day after day. And I'm not even talking just in my family, but in my community. I see people struggling with poverty. I see people wanting to give their kids a better future. I see people just wanting to retire properly. And I can't just, sometimes I can't just give them a solution. And it's frustrating and it makes me sad. I wish I just had all the money in the world to just solve all the problems. But a lot of times we have to teach people how to solve their own problems too. And again, that is where entrepreneurship comes in. because I saw like, whoa, if we have a system, if we have process in place to teach entrepreneurial mindset, to teach financial literacy, to teach innovation, creativity, to create safety for people to try these things, then they can have a chance at pulling their families and their communities forward. So if I summarize what I love is that it's bigger than myself, and we can all make it bigger than ourselves, because like I said, I started as a necessity. I needed to make money. I needed to find a way of working and taking care of my health, supporting my family back home. It's just the reality of being an immigrant. It's not just myself. I'm taking care of my family back home as well. And it gave me an opportunity, but then it turned into something bigger. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. I mean, for you to have taken up this mantle and this mission, 30 million families by 2030, that's huge, a huge undertaking, but it's so necessary. I feel like financial literacy is one of those things that there's no formal, training on it at some point, before becoming an adult. And then everyone's sort of walking around acting like they know what they're doing. And we need that. So I love that you've taken that up, the families, and I'm sure starting with the youngest generation is so necessary right now too. So I really appreciate you and taking that on and champion you. I just want to know what kind of challenges or barriers you face right now in the work that you're doing, and what are you working to overcome? How are you overcoming them?
Yeah. So a lot of when I focus so much on impact, I look at it as there's impact at the individual level. So really helping somebody understand how can they make their own, how can they have agency over their finances. When you look at people, and I learned this after, I didn't know it was this way really. It just took me moving here, coming with this, dream of having a better lifestyle, understanding the people around me to see like, whoa, our society is really run by debt, and not only run by debt, but there's a legacy of colonization, of exploitation that is still impacting a lot of even the communities around me as well. So how do I work through a mindset when those are the people that I want to help the most, that I want to impact the most? So how do we change that legacy of debt, which starts really with our habits or with our understanding and our relationship with money as well? And so the biggest challenge was that it wasn't as simple as I'm just going to start a company and I'm just going to go out and get clients and give people financial products. I really had to understand that it had to be about building a community where we could pretty much empty our cups and really say, well, what is it that's really going on financially with ourselves, with the system around us, with our chosen place of living, so that, again, we could make those informed decisions. And so bigger than just the actions, bigger than marketing, bigger than all the little things we take care of business. It was how do we work to change people's minds, to actually be receptive, to actually learn, to implement, and to change their lives in that sense. And that takes a lot of time, takes a lot of care, a lot of love, uh, big teams to be able to do work in that way, because we're looking at economic reconciliation, we're looking at economic agency, and if it's even advocating for people to go into entrepreneurship, is how do we support people that are coming from such a different background, that are not used to being business owners or that don't understand the risk of going into business as well. So those were some of the challenges that I found. They're more intangible challenges. And then, of course, for anybody that has going to business, there's the individual challenges of, say, me being a woman in business and me navigating this as a human, because I'm a human. I have a lot of people that look up to me and that respect me, that are excited, that celebrate my success. But I think people forget that I'm also just human, and that I am trying to figure this out as much as other people are also trying to figure it out. And it's that same humanity that helps me if I move forward. But it is really hard, the emotional toll that goes into building a business, health wise, financially as well, because you're constantly investing money and time to build a dream to support the people around you. And so with business, there's no guarantees. And so it goes back to, yeah, my biggest challenges there's at the community level because of the impact I want to do. So it's been learning how to have that impact with my own community. And at a personal level is honestly, I'm 28 years old. I started very young in business, And with that came my own mistakes, my own challenges, and I still make mistakes, but I'm quickly learning and growing from them so I can do better and be better for people too.
Yeah, we're definitely all still making mistakes. I think it's always about, failing forward, learning from those mistakes. And as we begin to, partner and collaborate and grow the ecosystem, that we can learn from each other's mistakes and sort of save some time, hopefully.
Yeah.
Do
Oh, good
you
deal.
have a key set of priorities that you're working on right now?
Yeah. So a big one is when I looked at how many families I wanted specifically to educate in a given year. A big priority that I started working on, and for anybody who watches this, if you want to reach out, is I wanted to really form solid partnerships with organizations across the US and Canada. And the reason being is because, again, if we're looking at doing systemic change, I'm not looking at just doing one-off workshop or having people just come to our financial centers to learn. But can we go where the people are at? And the thing is, we have been doing workshops at universities, in places of worship, at people's homes and libraries and businesses. But a big priority for me right now is I really want to solidify partnerships with businesses where we can consistently come and bring financial literacy as a norm, as part of normal, say, staff training. Or if you look at university, can it be a normal part of a certain class or curriculum that students do? If they choose to, they can go through some form of financial literacy training. Say, for example, we have a series of six workshops that we teach, and that's part of our social impact. Right? We want to be able to continue sharing this, and I know that, like I said, we can't do it alone. So it requires more people partnering with us, but also the support from organizations and their buy-in as well, understanding that yes, financial literacy is important.
I love that. Yeah, definitely important. And as you're as passionate about as entrepreneurship as I am, how do you feel about the future of entrepreneurship in Canada?
So for me, it's pretty exciting because, and mind you, I bring the perspective of I immigrated here, right? I came looking for a better life. So I'm probably already looking for better things than where I came from. But the reality is that it is, like I said, entrepreneurship is not easy, but there is so much support. I find there's such a growing community of entrepreneurs that are already out here, and a lot of people across the country are just willing to help, are just willing to teach, are just willing to form collaborations to just give us a hand. I do find that as people that are starting in business, people need to listen more too, because opportunities are here. Just like we were just chatting earlier about what about procurement? What about connecting to other business? What about having stronger networks? And so I honestly feel very excited about the future of entrepreneurship because I feel that this is a very safe place to take risks, and I don't mean a risk as leave your job and start a business, but hey, can we be financially responsible? Can you understand your market? Can you understand why you even want to start a business in the first place? So the way it's designed leads to that outcome that you want. And can we be okay, like I said, making mistakes and failing? I struggle with that, I will say. But again, it's a very safe place to do it, because there is a lot of support here.
Absolutely. It's so necessary. Can you elaborate on what your ultimate goal is in your work, and what does success look like for you and your colleagues?
Yeah. So we actually have been discussing this quite a bit, and we define success through different avenues. We can look at success as our impact. So if you think about our goal of educating 30 million families by 2030, that's a big achievement. That if we can actually make financial literacy accessible to people at that capacity, that would be amazing. Now, at a personal level, we also discuss how does that look like? Well, it looks like from the business that we're creating, not just for me, but for my team members, we have more control of our time. We have more flexibility. We live with purpose. We are giving or living with an example that we're proud of our families to see, and we're proud of our communities being a part of. And so I will define success, if you look at, say, with our team goals, with our company goals, there's that bigger in terms of families educated. But honestly, at the individual level, we really focus on what it can do for us. for a business, and how that will translate for our families and the people around us.
I
Oh,
love
sorry,
that.
I just want to add, sorry. So then some discussions we've had that I think will give people a better idea. 30 million sounds like a big number, but imagine this way. What if financial literacy was taught at every single high school? What if teachers actually had financial literacy training, which we could provide, so that they will be equipped, so that they could turn it as part of their own curriculum? Is then we also don't want people to depend on us forever, right? But that's an example. What if every business or small medium-sized company had access, that if it was a priority, they could offer financial literacy workshops to their employees. But not only that, we could train the trainer. We could train people on teaching the workshops themselves as well. That's another way of having more outreach. What if every single Indigenous community across Canada had access to financial literacy? And this is actually something we're already working on with some of our team members that are reaching out to communities, that are from communities that are doing that work, coming from the financial industry, to transfer that knowledge. But again, it's because we're pushing so it becomes normal. It doesn't have to be a one-time thing. So that's how we see that as a level of success and consistency. That's a big one, is sustainability and consistency.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big push for that right now. I think the culture is really interested in, that sort of the literacy, the sustainability. And so there's a huge push and interest in it. So we have so much momentum. We definitely have to, like I said, continue to collab and push forward in that. Yamila, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for the community right now?
I do. A really big one is, if you have any connections, if you would like to learn more about this yourself, or if you can introduce us to any organizations, businesses, etc., please connect with me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You have my full name here. My Instagram is Jamila FRP. It's just my personal Instagram. Honestly, I connect with people at a personal level because that's how I really find that we will understand what are the challenges that people are facing in our communities, and what we can do together to move forward from that. That's one. My second call to action is, if you're watching this, take an opportunity and sit through one of our workshops. And one thing is, if you find financial literacy resources, I always tell people is approach it, with an unbiased perspective. Approach education that is unbiased. The goal is to really understand the system so we can use it in our benefit. And then money doesn't always have to be a struggle. Money can be a vehicle and a tool that we can use to start other businesses, to help take care of our families, to actually have a better lifestyle. But it will take that whole community push forward to change the narrative around money. And that is, hopefully, I hope that my example, even through my life, through a business, that people can see that. But honestly, because if we think about the impact generations down the line, I can already imagine, what if there was a time where youth could go to university without relying on student loans, or having to carry that forward. What if entrepreneurship education, entrepreneurship literacy was part of the normal school curriculum as well? It is part of financial literacy too. So I do love envisioning how things could be, and how can they look like, in a way that is more empowering from a decolonial perspective, from repatriating the economy as well. And so that's why I get so excited. And that's really my call to action, is that anybody can do even one thing, to open themselves, to learn more, to connect, and to start changing little by little.
I love that. As you said, the entrepreneurship so necessary. It definitely should be a part of the regular education curriculum. I always say that in trades is what I'm always pushing people into: entrepreneurship and trades and STEM. So again, we definitely applaud the work that you're doing, the advocacy for financial literacy. Thank you so much for the remarkable work that you do. And again, thank you for taking the time to be here today for this interview.
Thank you as well for having me.
Absolutely, our pleasure. So we want to close the way we began by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on, as well as our ancestors and those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We'd like to acknowledge our elders and our community stewards whose shoulders we continue to stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation. So again, thank you so much, Yamila, for your work and for being here. And thank you to all of our viewers and listeners today.